had a very expansive vision for the third movie.
It's set in the desert, in the daylight. This is not a conventional zombie movie.
This film has quite a new look. There's a great visual contrast to it.
The characters are much closer together. It's definitely a different Resident Evil.
It's really cool. We've really put all of that on screen, perhaps even bigger and better than I'd imagined. The third movie is set pretty much after the end of the world. The world has been wiped out by the T-virus. When we made the first Resident Evil movie, no one had made a zombie film for like 15 years. When I was growing up and I was a kid, the Lucio Fulci movies and the Romero movies, I mean, there was a new one coming out every couple of weeks, and kids loved zombie movies. Then no one made one for 15 years, and then with Resident Evil, we really made the first one again. Now there's a lot of undead movies around, so it really puts the pressure on for us to be original and kind of like continue to push the envelope.
On the first one, we very much wanted to capture the gaming experience. So it was a very claustrophobic, very paranoid movie in very confined spaces. When we did number two, we said, what is the exact opposite of number one? Would be to be out in the open, be in a contemporary city, have a lot of action rather than the confined spaces. For number three, we really felt that we have to go to the next level. We have to go to the next step, which is what happens when this is all over.
Raccoon City was just the beginning. Slowly but surely, the earth began to wither and die.
I felt that the genre of zombie movies had moved on from when we made the first Resident Evil film. Now we're in a position where there have been a lot of undead movies, and most of them take place in cities. People have become familiar with that. So I felt it was necessary to kind of broaden out the look and the feel of the movie. Took a lot of influence and a lot of inspiration from another kind of genre of films that I grew up with, which is the post-apocalyptic movie. Of course, the Mad Max and the Road Warrior being the key to those films and the best of them. Really, the idea of kind of fusing Resident Evil with a kind of Road Warrior feel came from watching The Road Warrior again with Milla's brother, Marco, who was 14 at the time, 13 or 14 when we watched the movie. And he had never seen it. And it was like amazing to me. I thought, wow, there's a whole audience of younger kids who've never seen The Road Warrior. And they don't know how cool seeing armored trucks blast through these desert landscapes can be. So we thought, well, let's give that look another go, but let's kind of update it.
When we set out to find the director for Resident Evil 3, we said we want a real director. We don't want some video kid who's just done, one short or who's done a bunch of commercials. We wanted a real filmmaker. All three of us, Paul, Jeremy and I, we were always big fans of Russell's work.
Russell really invented a very cinematic, very different cinematic visual style. A lot of moving camera, a lot of crane work, lots of very fast cutting. His work certainly had a big influence on me as a filmmaker, and that's why I was very excited to work with him on this movie.
When I read it, I was just so happy because it was such a great script. I'd seen the other two, one and two, and liked them very much. So I was very excited about it.
When we had the first meeting with Russell, he literally came in with a book that size, and he had storyboarded the entire movie. And it was a 2.5 or 3 hour meeting where he took us shot by shot, scene by scene through the movie, how he would do it. And we were just blown away by this.
Russell brought a lot of his own vision to this. There was a point in the pre-production process where we got scared of shooting in the daylight because the dark it's easier to be frightening in the dark. And he said, They wanted to do something different, and making a horror movie in the daylight hours was what would make it very different.
There were a few people that were not convinced that horror or suspense or whatever can happen in broad daylight.
Everyone expected this movie to be filmed at night, so when Russell kind of, said, oh no, let's film it during the day, it was definitely did a double take.
And we did some tests, and they saw the tests and went, wow, it does. I said, yeah, sunlight's like moonlight, it's whatever.
It looks unbelievable because he's really captured this very spooky, creepy quality about the daytime.
It was very new to make a terror movie with daylight. That's a huge opportunity for design, because you can play with the textures, you can play with the characters and with the colors. It's something that usually you don't see in a zombie film.
As it contrasts the first two films, very bright, dry, arid landscapes, and then you've got that contrasted with the high-tech interior of the Umbrella Corporation. So visually, I think it's really interesting.
It really is about trying to find horror and suspense within daylight and within shadows. And I think they were just trying to do a really fresh take on this genre, and I think they have.